Peace. Welcome to the culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii. Thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of the conversation. Folks, we got a lot to talk about. First and foremost, let's talk about how we can shed light on the darkness of the human trafficking system. We'll be checking in with two women that are doing their part to make sure that we bring an understanding, as January is known as Human Trafficking Awareness Month. We'll talk about this issue. Also, we're going to discuss empowering and employing through filmmaking. I'm going to check in with Mr. Anthony Commodore, who is the CEO of Commodore Independent Filmworks, and my brother, Julian Bertano, the actor, the producer, the entrepreneur, to talk about their latest project and so much more as they discuss workforce development. And later on, we check in with Dr. Bridget for this week's Reclaim Your Wellness, as she talks about parenting can actually aid you. Yeah, folks, there's new study to show that and so much more. Stay with us. It's all happening on today's edition of The Culture right here on the Black Star Network. Let's go. All right, folks, welcome to the culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii. Thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of the conversation as we're streaming live on a number of various platforms. But check us out on our home platform at blackstarnetwork.com. Download the app for free. Follow us on social media, and we ask you to give something to help power us through this digital movement. Just go to our website today at blackstarnetwork.com. Also, folks, we are streaming on Amazon platforms, on Amazon News, on your Fire TV, also on Amazon Prime Video. You can check us out right now under the Prime Video app under Live TV, the news, or find us on Amazon.com under Prime Video, then Live TV, the news. We're also on the Freevee network. We can find us on now on under Black Star Network for the news portion. And we're on Plex TV 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Just search for Black Star Network. Or find us on the Live TV, the news, and opinion. Also, folks, we are streaming on Roland Martin's social media platforms. So check us out on Roland Martin's Facebook page and Roland Martin's YouTube channel as we're streaming on those spaces, as well as also check us out on the X platform. Big shout out to the Culture Crew on the X platform, on Facebook, and on YouTube. I see folks gathering into the chat space on our YouTube channel. Pastor Damon Blissett, Pretty Brown Mimi 726, Ming Lee, Natasha Surge. I see you, Big Brother Willie Frage. I got you. Brian Christian, hey, good afternoon and happy Monday to you, Brother Brian. Conscious Thought, I see you. Thank you as always. Cindy D, I got you. Tiana, I see you. And so many of you are checking in. So make sure y'all get ready for these conversations we got lined up for you today. All right, folks, first and foremost, our first conversation is about an issue that we do not talk about it. Now, in all of my years of working in media and in all of different types of social justice spaces, this one particular issue still seems to be on the margin, still seems to be left in the darkness. And the issue I'm speaking of is none other than human trafficking. Yes, it is a sad reality in this country, folks, that this is happening in major states across this country. And today we want to shed light on this issue because January is Human Trafficking Awareness Month. Now, even though we're almost at the end of the month, it doesn't mean that you still can't do something to help to completely eliminate this problem. And so my guests today are two women that are working in the space of trying to do just that, to try to disrupt this system, and more importantly, to bring awareness to this issue and to humanize those who have been victimized by this issue. So I want to welcome now Heather Hyman, who is a part of the Maryland Volunteer Lawyers Services, and also Miss Jessica Emerson, who is a part of the University of Baltimore School of Law. Heather, Jessica, thank you so much for joining me this afternoon. How are you today?
Great. Thanks for having us.
We're Absolutely. Great. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Absolutely. First and foremost, let's talk about January being Human Trafficking Awareness Month. I don't know if a lot of people know this, Jessica and Heather, but this is interesting because, normally when you talk about January, people talk about New Year's resolutions, starting the month off on a high note, but human trafficking is a very, very serious thing. Do you ladies know why January was chosen as this month of awareness?
Honestly, I think we probably should know that. I can't 100% say that I do. Maybe it is about kind of starting the year off with awareness around an issue that I wouldn't say that a lot of people don't know what it is, but I would say that they probably don't necessarily understand what it is in reality.
Mm, mm. Heather, what's your take? Do you feel like people awareness of human trafficking is where, on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the most knowledgeable, 1 having no understanding of it? Where do you see our awareness at right now?
I think it depends. I think people are often very aware of like social media rumors and kind of misinterpretations of what human trafficking really is. You know, there's some post that goes viral about a white van in some parking lot, and it's really not reflecting the experiences of people that are being trafficked. So I think it's both. There's kind of a high visibility in some ways, but a low understanding of what can really make people vulnerable to exploitation and what steps people can take to protect others and to connect people with services and supports they might need if they're potentially, facing a situation of exploitation.
So, and I want to give people like, what is the general understanding? How would you properly define this, Jessica, in terms of human trafficking? Because I think it can mean a lot of different things to a lot of different people. How does the work that you're doing with the Human Trafficking Project, how do they define it?
So we define it by what the law says it is. And I think the best place to start, quite honestly, is with the Federal Trafficking Victims Protection Act, the TVPA, which was passed for the first time in 2000, the year 2000, subsequently reauthorized numerous times. And what the TVPA does is actually bifurcate human trafficking into sex trafficking and labor trafficking. And for sex trafficking, the definition is essentially someone using force, fraud, or coercion to induce someone to engage in a commercial sex act. A commercial sex act is sex or a sex act or sex exchanged for money, or something of value, whatever that may be. And there's a little caveat to the definition of sex trafficking in that if anyone is under the age of 18, so if someone is 17 years old or younger and they are engaging in a commercial sex act, they are under both federal and Maryland law considered a victim of sex trafficking per se. There does not have to be a third party using force, fraud, or coercion to get them to do that. Essentially, it falls under the understanding, at least legally speaking, that young people can consent to work, but they can't consent to engaging in a commercial sex act. So the 15-year-old who is trading sex for survival, sex for housing, sex for drugs, things like that, that is considered sex trafficking under the law. And with labor trafficking, there has to be, no matter what the age of the individual is, there has to be that definition of force, fraud, or coercion. And I think that's where people get lost. I think they understand, it's forcing somebody to do something for a financial benefit. But like Heather said, the social media expectation and the movie expectation, the Takens of the world, they tend to focus on the use of force. And so, I always joke, I'm not dissing on SVU. I love me some Mariska Hargitay, but every single episode where they're dealing with trafficking, Mariska Hargitay rushes down the stairs. She's always in search, quite frankly, of usually the one white victim. And she finds people, locked in rooms, chained to radiators, behind chain link fences, things like that. And that happens, but it really doesn't happen commonly. And what happens far more often is the issue of fraud or coercion, where essentially all someone needs to know is what that individual needs. What are their vulnerabilities? Do they need to have housing provided for them? Are they struggling with issues of poverty? Do they need access to drugs or alcohol? And essentially kind of the bait and switch of fraud where, I might say, you can work at this place, but I'm actually going to force you to do something else. Or for someone who's already trading sex on the street, I can protect you. And all you'll have to do is give me half your money. but then the bargain actually ends up being totally different. And for coercion, essentially, all you need to do is withhold or supply someone with something that they need to survive. And that can be simply a way out of a neighborhood where they feel like they're stuck. So as much as force is easier to understand, the movies Taken, things like that, it's easier for people to understand. It tends to be more psychological manipulation, those invisible chains.
Yeah. That's a great point.
That keep people tethered or controlled in these circumstances. And the real challenge with these kind of social media or media explanations of what trafficking is, that it isn't. And every time that we pretend that, the only way that someone's trafficked is if they are locked in a room somewhere and forced to do something, we are training, quote unquote, potential jurors, potential prosecutors, potential judges who are not going to understand what trafficking really looks like. So those media representations can do real harm in access to justice for survivors.
Look, we got to take our first pause. When we come forward, Jessica and Heather, I want to continue the conversation because there have been some major cases that have come up in the public's eye. We're looking at people, just a couple of weeks ago, they talked about the Jeffrey Epstein files and whose names was on that. Then we just heard about the latest case with Vince McMahon of the WWE, how he stepped down after some allegations of him getting involved in sex trafficking, human trafficking. But as to get back to your point, Jessica, like that people, we still don't have a full understanding of it. And so I want to give you an opportunity, ladies, to really go into a little bit further. And more importantly, how folks can kind of protect themselves, especially when you're talking about among Black America, where you have young girls and Black women who are taken, where there's not a lot of light shed on a young Black girl being taken and removed. But now there seems to be some effort, some gains, but we still got a lot of work to do. So we'll continue to talk about these dynamics. Folks, stay with us. Join us in the chat as you're streaming live on Roland Martin's YouTube channel and Roland Martin's Facebook page. And stay with us. It's The Culture here on the Black Star Network.
When you talk about Blackness and what happens in Black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in Black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
I'm Farajii Muhammad, live from LA. And this is The Culture. The Culture is a two-way conversation. You and me. We talk about the stories, politics, the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. So join our community every day at 3 p.m. Eastern and let your voice be heard. Hey, we're all in this together. So let's talk about it and see what kind of trouble we can get into. It's The Culture, weekdays at 3, only on the Black Star Network.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punching!
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland. Stay Black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
All right, folks, welcome back to the culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad. January is Human Trafficking Awareness Month. And even though we're at the end of the month, folks, this is still an opportunity for you to learn about this very, very serious issue that has been kept in the dark. And today we're trying to do our part to bring it to light so we can be much more aware and be a part of the prevention of this ongoing epidemic. Now, I'm talking to two women who are doing some fantastic work as they are involved with the Human Trafficking Prevention Project, HTPP, and they're doing their part to bring awareness to this issue. Heather Hyman is the lawyer with the Maryland Volunteer Lawyer Service. So Heather, thank you again for joining us. And then we're also joined by Jessica Emerson, who serves as a staff member and a professor from the University of Baltimore School of Law. Heather, I want to get your take on what Jessica kind of laid out, saying that the depictions of human trafficking based on Hollywood, based on social media, is not always accurate. It's not there. That it's not just about chaining little girls from other countries or even little girls from this country. It starts psychologically. And when you're talking about that level of influence that is posed on, and I have to say that, you know, we have a lot of girls, particularly within Black America, Black girls who are susceptible to certain type of influences, right? So, you know, when Jessica was talking about, you know, the promise of money, the promise of being of some sort of security, that sounds appealing to some Black girls in America. Talk to us about, you know, how do we start to break the chains of that influence? How do we, you know, teach our girls to think twice and to be critical about who are they entertaining, who are they around, all of those dynamics?
Sure. I mean, I think a lot of it comes down to, you know, the way that people get support and what barriers they may face and what things that might be happening around them or injustices, systemic issues that are putting them in a place where they're more vulnerable. Jessica and I and our colleagues, you know, we go out in the community quite a bit here in Baltimore, and, you know, we're meeting with people at, you know, outreach centers, at neighborhood centers, at domestic violence shelters, different places. And a lot of our clients, when we do meet with them and we start talking to them about their needs, and they, you know, through our conversations, they tell us that they have had to trade sex to survive, or, you know, they've been exploited in a way that meets that legal definition of trafficking. They share that often, you know, they have been victims of child abuse. They came from, you know, a home where there wasn't much stability. Maybe they didn't feel like they had places where they could reach out to get support at school, you know, within other places and in other ways that might have provided some kind of safety net to them. And then that led them down this road where they were put in a position of being vulnerable to exploitation. And then later, because many of the people that we worked with have had really negative experiences with the criminal legal system, it's really scary to get help once you're out of the situation, to try and figure out what your rights are, to try and figure out if, you know, there are legal things that you want to try to address, which is what we specialize in. You know, even trusting people you want to talk to. If you need shelter, you need, you know, mental health support, medical support. So I think what we can do, you know, is definitely think about what support systems we have in place for kids. What support systems, you know, are out there. How are individuals who are being marginalized, who might be vulnerable because of, you know, a home situation they're in, you know, what resources can we offer them to make sure that they aren't looking elsewhere to a place that's less safe and take them down the road to potential future exploitation?
And that's a good point. Do you feel like, and Heather and Jessica, do you feel like because there's some cultural messages that are prevalent within mass media, whether it's this pimp, this kind of pimp culture that we kind of see within music, within the movies, this, like you said, this idea, Heather, when you mentioned somebody coming in and saving you, do you feel like this it's like very patriarchal still in a lot of the messaging? Do you feel like this is contributing to that?
So I liked your intro where you said, let's start some trouble. So let's do that. I think that the main difficulty that, not the main difficulty, but one of the difficulties that kind of the focus on quote unquote controlled trafficking, one of the main challenges with that is that becomes all that people see in terms of what trafficking is. And more importantly, it becomes what law enforcement is looking for, right? A lot of people will, kind of say to us, well, this guy's a pimp, da, 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 da. And, it's not for us to talk about kind of the cultural piece, but we can talk about the legal piece, right? So being a pimp does not mean anything legally, right? It becomes trafficking when you're using force, fraud, or coercion to get someone to engage in a commercial sex act or some other form of labor against their will. And the challenge here, though, is that the human trafficking model or the anti-trafficking model is very much rooted in a criminal legal response, like Heather talked about. And so what we see primarily with the challenges that our clients face is that they are deeply entrenched in the criminal legal system. They are getting arrested for their proximity to poverty. They're getting arrested for trading sex. They're getting arrested for struggling with substance use and things like that. There was actually a survey done in 2016, which we still use because it's really accurate. And it was done by the National Survivor Network. And they found that of their entire membership of both sex and labor trafficking survivors, 91% of them had a criminal record, right? And so when we are talking about, you started us off with talking about how we can prevent this. Okay, so let's talk about that, right? When you support legislation that decreases poverty, that is preventing trafficking. When you support legislation or policies that help get people treatment for substance use rather than arresting them, that is anti-trafficking prevention. When you support legislation or policies that focus on giving people access to housing first, that is anti-trafficking prevention, right? And so when we get bogged down in kind of the focus on, pimp culture and things like that, that's not doing anything other than reinforcing myths of blackmail criminality and focusing law enforcement on arresting their way out of this problem.
Okay. I like that. No, that makes a lot of sense. Let me take a couple of comments from our culture crew here that are checking in from around the country. Tiz, thank you for checking in. Welcome to the chat once again. You said, let's be honest, a lot of people just don't have good parenting skills or love for the family. So a lot of kids grow up in dysfunctional family units, in my humble opinion. Ladies, what's your take on that? Where does the parenting conversation come in? Or some people will say, well, blame it on the parents. That's why this girl got caught up in that. Is that the case? Do you find that to be the issue?
I don't know if it's necessarily about whether it's the case or not. I think the question is it helpful, right? And when you are in a family where maybe mom has a ton of unresolved stuff, unresolved trauma, trouble, using substances to cope with a history of trauma, things of that nature. And when you are focusing on surviving or when you are in survival mode constantly, that doesn't give you as much room in your life to parent, to, be available to kids when they have questions about life and drugs and sex and belonging and all of those things that all of us have questions about when we're adolescents. So I don't know if we're going to solve anything by putting the blame on parents rather than, unfortunately, the systems that parents find themselves embroiled in and trapped in based on, the struggles that they have in their lives and the unresolved issues that they have in their lives. Now, it doesn't mean that this doesn't play a role in whether or not kids can fall victim to this, because it does. It's not that young folks can't make reasoned, informed decisions about their lives, but all of you who have been adolescents or are raising adolescents, they're a challenge, right? They don't have as well developed judgment. They are more impulsive. They want to challenge authority. All of that is normal. But when a child finds themselves in a family where there's just not a lot of room for them and their problems, like Heather said, they're going to go looking for support elsewhere. And so anytime that we can, as a society, support parents in healing from their challenges, and therefore we are helping them parent better or more effectively. Those are things that are going to keep kids out of this, this horrific criminal offense.
Absolutely. We got about 1 minute left in this segment, but I want to give people an opportunity, Heather, to really get involved, because again, it's Tiz, as Tiz brought that point up, Tiz also said this is complex, and there are a lot of layers to it. There are policy issues, there are cultural issues, and there are certain attitudes around this. So where does a person start, Heather, in this process? I mean, you and Jessica are doing work with the Human Trafficking Prevention Project. If somebody says, you know what, I'm gonna kind of slow walk into this work and try to figure out where I fit, where do they start?
I think we need to start by kind of addressing some of the misconceptions about who can be a victim. I think we need to understand that, when someone is trafficked, it can be an intersection of, discrimination. It can be an intersection of, institutional racism. It can be an intersection of anti-immigrant sentiment, of, we have to look at LGBTQ rights. We need to look at all these things that potentially make somebody more vulnerable, right? And so to learn fully about this issue, to understand how to prevent trafficking, we have to look at all of these issues that play into it and what really can make a person vulnerable. And then we need to expand our definition of who can potentially be victimized. And then that'll help us reach more people and help more people and have a better understanding of what's really a complex and nuanced subject. And to do this, I'd encourage you to just get out there, read more. The Freedom Network is a great resource. You can go and look at the Human Trafficking Prevention Project's website, htprevention.org, to read a little bit more about our work and our philosophy towards this issue. And again, get ideas of ways to get involved. We're here in Baltimore, but there's great organizations throughout different communities all around the United States that are trying to assist.
That's what we need to hear. That is exactly what we need to hear, because I feel like it's such a big thing. I don't want people to feel overwhelmed and feel like they can't have a part in this process. In my many years of journalism and media work, I try to make sure that I always give space for these conversations, just because I know it's so prevalent, whether you're from Black communities or white communities, whatever you're from, that this can happen anytime and anywhere, because it is a psychological threat. And people tend to say, oh, it doesn't happen to rich white children and all that. Like, no, it does happen. It happens across the board, actually. And, when you're talking about that psychological risk, if somebody is offering you, promising you money, promise you security, promise that they will love you. Oh, love. You just love is weaponized. And ladies, I know we don't have enough time today, but I remember going to a workshop about human trafficking when I was living in Baltimore, and it blew my mind how many young women fell into the system because of love. I love this guy. And therefore they sacrifice themselves. I'm sorry, go ahead, Jessica.
Yeah, we all want to belong to something. We all want to be a part of something or someone, especially when we haven't been given necessarily access to that because of all of these other challenges that Heather was talking about. But so that's why I said, or as Heather was starting to talk about ways that people can get involved, anytime you're doing anti-poverty work, you're doing anti-trafficking prevention work, when you're doing work supporting people who are unhoused or unstably housed, you're doing anti-trafficking prevention work. And I think the more we get into the ways that when we address those root causes of trafficking and we get more into the things that we can do to prevent this, then we move ourselves away from those more media driven, the movie Taken and things like that. We move ourselves away from that, because you're doing the work when you're doing work in any of those spaces.
Absolutely. Absolutely. What's the website? Let's give out the website once again for the Human Trafficking Prevention Project. And Lisa, for folks to check out, again, it's the Human Trafficking Prevention Project, folks. This is an opportunity for you to get involved, at least learn more about the human trafficking issue, and more importantly, to get involved in some work. And I know that both of our special guests, Heather and Jessica, y'all are working in different places with the Maryland Volunteers Lawyers Services, and as well as the University of Baltimore School of Law. But and I think Heather, you mentioned the Freedom Project. Is that correct?
Freedom Network.
Yeah, Freedom Network is a great resource. Again, there's, for example, where I work at Maryland Volunteer Lawyer Service. A portion of our work is doing this human trafficking prevention project work with Jessica, but then we're also doing work around workforce development, addressing criminal records through expungement, making sure that, wealth is still concentrated in different communities here in Baltimore through untangling titles, making sure people's deeds are straight, addressing tax issues. There's a whole host of ways to get involved. And it's interesting because a lot of the clients that we see through the Human Trafficking Prevention Project will then come and get legal help through MVLS. We're helping them with credit issues, with consumer issues, with the records, with tax things you wouldn't even think of, but you got to address all of these legal matters to help somebody get back on their feet and make sure there aren't barriers to them moving forward with their life.
That's what it is. HT Prevention is the website. If we want to pull that up really quickly as we talk about this, the Human Trafficking Prevention Project, folks. Here is the official website for the work. If you're interested in getting involved, hopefully this resonates with someone that's watching the show today. This is an ongoing issue that has been kept in the dark, but is being brought to the light because of the cases of a Jeffrey Epstein, Vince McMahon, and so many other things, so many other people, high-profile people that are involved in this. It's absolutely just mind-blowing, to say the least. But it is an important issue that we want to expose and hopefully disrupt the systems of exploitation. So, Heather, Jessica, thank you so much for your great work. And more importantly, thank you for joining us today here on the show.
Thank you. Thanks so much for having us.
Absolutely. Folks, we got to take a quick pause. When we come forward, let's talk to Mr. Anthony Commodore and Mr. Julian Brentano, talking about the work they're doing of empowering and employing through filmmaking. Stay with us. That conversation is up next here on The Culture on the Black Star Network.
Pull up a chair, take your seat. The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
I'm Farajii Muhammad, live from LA. And this is The Culture. The Culture is a two-way conversation. You and me. We talk about the stories, politics, the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. So join our community every day at 3 p.m. Eastern and let your voice be heard. Hey, we're all in this together. So let's talk about it and see what kind of trouble we can get into. It's The Culture, weekdays at 3, only on the Black Star Network.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com. Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Hold no punches.
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
All right, folks, welcome back to the culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad. Let's switch gears, talking from human trafficking and talk about empowering and employing folks through the art of filmmaking. And I'm joined by two powerful men, brothers who are doing their damn thing in the area of arts and entertainment, and more importantly, not only changing the culture, but changing how folks are going to work and earning a little something for themselves. So I'm going to first start this conversation off with Mr. Anthony Commodore, who serves as the executive producer of the new film Mercy Road, but he's also the CEO of Commodore Independent Filmworks. And then I'm also joined by my big brother Julian Bertano, who is an actor, producer, and entrepreneur, talking about the work that he's doing on screen and off screen as well. So first and foremost, peace and blessings to my brothers. How are y'all feeling this afternoon?
I'm feeling pretty good, Farajii. Thanks so much for having us on. It's just a pleasure just to be here talking on the culture of Black Star Network. This is just amazing. So thank you so very much for having me here.
Absolutely. I see my brother Julian. How's the family, brother Julian?
Everything's well. Everything's well. Thank you. Thank you for having us. I echo what Commodore had to say. This network is awesome. I applaud y'all any way we could be of support. I could be of support, lend my voice service. Definitely, let's keep it going.
Let's keep it going. Let's keep it going, brother. Let's keep it going. Hey, Anthony, let's start talking about the work that you're doing with your film company, because this is the work that you're doing. You got both have worked on a new project called Mercy Road. We can talk a little bit about that. But this is also a way for you, brother Anthony, for you to do something to give back to the communities, to open up some working force opportunities. Talk to me about that.
Yeah, I work on a great deal of film projects, and my objective was to bring more projects to the state of Maryland, so we can give individuals opportunities to work here. Give Marylanders opportunities to get work here, to give businesses, some of the stakeholders, the community. Just let them know that they can, we could take a film, we could take a project anywhere, New York, Atlanta, LA, but we just want to keep it here in Maryland to grow Maryland's economy, to bring those tax credits here back to Maryland so we can thrive here versus going somewhere else, to take out film projects. And it's amazing that we were able to take this project and keep it here in the state of Maryland, employing Marylanders, which mean actors, crew members, community members, stakeholders, businesses, giving everyone opportunity here in the state of Maryland to thrive.
When you're talking about, let's talk about Mercy Road, because this is a project that you've done some little filming in Baltimore City and then throughout the state of Maryland. How does that advance workforce development and economic opportunities, especially for Black folks?
With Mercy Road, one thing we were able to do is as you know, we filmed in Baltimore, and I see your Raven shirt. But we filmed in a community that needs a project, and a community that needs support, a community that needs opportunities. So we decided to film at the old St. Luke's Church, which is right in an undesired, kind of undesired neighborhood. But we were able to employ some of the individuals in that area to come to this old church, which was a very old church that we had to basically rehab for a period of 2 days just so we can film it for 3 days. But we gave individuals opportunities. We brought in a barber from Baltimore. We brought in, some the church members, which individuals who actually work for the church, gave them opportunity not to just make money, but to be a part of something wonderful. Makeup artists comes out of Baltimore, so we were able to take advantage of what we had in Baltimore, give them opportunities, and they loved every minute of it. And that's what gives me hope that we can go into some of these untapped neighborhoods, where there's poverty, and just give them hope that they can be a part of something wonderful, and especially not just to make money, but to kind of uplift their neighborhoods and also see their names in film credits. And that's exactly what we did this past Saturday when we premiered, had a private screening of Mercy Road.
And talk about how much money are we talking about here? And then, Brother Julian, I want to get your take. But Brother Anthony, how much money are we talking about generating on a project like Mercy Road? How much money are we talking about here?
Well, Mercy Road can generate a great deal of money based on, because Mercy Road is just, we filmed only the pilot episode. So once the actual networks that we're reaching out to pick up the whole series, then we'll be filming an entire season. And then we can go right back into that neighborhood, or some of these neighborhoods, and something like this can generate a series like this can generate between 150 and maybe 400,000 per episode. It depends on which network says, okay, this is what we're willing to pay, and we can use those money again to pour right back into the community, while at the same time making a really good product that the audience love to watch.
Brother Julian, as you're playing the lead in this particular project, but then also you're doing the work behind the scenes. How important is it for you to not just build those relationships with folks in Baltimore and the state of Maryland, but just knowing that what you're doing is could put some money into somebody else's pocket, that you are creating some jobs? How important is that for you as the actor, as a producer, as a businessman yourself?
I mean, that's extremely important. I mean, without your team, without your local support, you got to pour in first before you can anticipate or expect anything in return. Me, myself, someone that had pivoted into this industry as a whole, you know, you find your opportunities, you create your opportunities, and sometimes they don't necessarily be flowing all the time. And for individuals that have less access to the main commercialized industry, like Commodore was saying, LA, you know, Atlanta, New York, different places like that, you know, a lot of times people don't have access to the right type of production, you know, the right level of production. And I believe us being able to do Mercy Road and provide these jobs and outlets and just a pipeline for other creatives, I think is remarkable.
Hey, Brother Julian, Brother Anthony, we got to take a quick pause. When we come forward, I want to get you both of your takes on this, because as much as we're talking about the workforce development, we're also talking about the quality of the projects. And I think that this year, well, in 2023, we saw something different. People have been talking about Origin. People have been talking about Color Purple. They talked about the quality of these projects, the greatness of these projects, the importance of these projects, but they haven't generated a lot of money at the box office. And so I'm wondering, Brother Julian, from your vantage point as an actor, and then of course as one behind the scenes, like for Black independent movies and films to be made, TV shows and films to be made, where does the focus of Black America need to be on? Do we need to worry about box office success? Do we need to worry about ticket sales? Or do we need to just say, look, we're trying to tell our stories regardless of what happens at the box office? Our stories need to be told, and we're that's the focus that we need to be on. So I want to kind of get your take on that larger conversation. Folks, stay with us. We still got a lot more to talk about with Brother Anthony Commodore, Julian Bertano, and of course, I want to hear from you, folks, as we're talking about empowering through filmmaking, talking about workforce development, we're talking about telling our stories, and so much more. Stay with us. It's The Culture here on the Black Star Network.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in Black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in Black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Your money makes this possible. Check some money orders. Go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland@RolandSMartin.com.
I'm Farajii Muhammad, live from LA. And this is The Culture. The Culture is a two-way conversation. You and me. We talk about the stories, politics, the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. So join our community every day at 3 p.m. Eastern and let your voice be heard. Hey, we're all in this together. So let's talk about it and see what kind of trouble we can get into. It's The Culture. Weekdays at 3, only on the Black Star Network.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punches! I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad, joined by two fantastic guests, my brothers, Mr. Anthony Commodore, who serves as the CEO of Commodore Independent Filmworks, and my other brother, Julian Bratano, who is an actor, producer, and entrepreneur, as we're talking about empowering through filmmaking. Now, this is a very important part of the conversation because it's very timely that as much as we're talking about your latest project, Mercy Road, y'all shot the pilot, you had a fantastic screening, you had a whole bunch of folks came out and over the weekend to celebrate the work that you guys have been doing. But then it opens up the conversation about the state of Black Hollywood at this particular moment. And Brother Julian, I want to kind of get your take on this because the big movies that some of us may have seen didn't garner the box office success of other movies. So I'm talking about the Book of Clarence that came out this past few days ago, didn't do well, quote unquote, in the box office. You have the new film from Ava DuVernay, Origin, that came out. The Color Purple, of course, with Oprah Winfrey, did about 59 million in the box office. How much of that should we be concerned about? Is this a sign, Brother Julian, that Black Hollywood needs to go into a different direction outside of your traditional institutional support, that we should be focused on storytelling and content and not necessarily about ticket sales and box office?
Well, my take is this, and it's just my subjective perspective on it, is that number one, we got to focus on the actual craft, the art itself, the technical things, make sure it looks and sounds the way it needs to look and sound. Get the stories out, but focus on the actual work getting done versus the box office, things like that. We have to also understand that once you do that, then the people's palettes open up to whatever conversation you're trying to communicate with them, right? Secondly is when us as Black individuals here in America and across the world, we truly do dictate patterns and trends and popularity. So we have to move with a certain boldness and confidence, knowing that we steer the narrative. So that means take matters into your own hand, very much like Brother Anthony Commodore here has done, continues to do. Take matters in your own hand as an independent. Surround yourself with the right people, the right team, and that should open up some other opportunities as long as you do the right work. That's the key. Focus on the work. Make sure it's of quality and watch the doors open up. Because they need content. Everybody needs content now. So it's not about the box office. All these streaming, OTT, all these other platforms are now moving into film 3. The opportunities to monetize is becoming limited.
Mm, mm. Brother Anthony, what's your take on that? Thank you, Brother Julian. That makes a lot of sense.
I'm basically gonna have to echo everything Julian said. But one thing I would differentiate is that if it was only box office, yes, I think I would be a bit concerned. But with the emergence of so many streaming services, which promotes black film, black series, black content, you see it. You see it a lot. You see so many services. As a matter of fact, we just filmed last year 2 projects that are right now streaming on BET Plus. And and then again, just like Julian said, but once you have an opportunity, you put your best work out there, regardless of what is happening at the box office or even streaming. If you put great work out there, individuals will look at you, doors will open, and you will have more opportunities. But you focus on one project first, and that's exactly what we did on Mercy Road. We focus on it. We focused to make it the best we possibly could. And again, once you put great work out there, these doors will open for you.
Yeah, because I think one of my big concerns of as just one who enjoys black films and black theater and just black arts and entertainment, one of my concern is that and I'm with you on this, Brother Julian. If the quality is there, I personally don't care about the box office. You know what I'm saying? Like the quality has to be there. I think that where it becomes a problem is like your stuff looks like it's just, I mean, I'm not going to say one particular platform, but you know what I'm saying? Like your stuff don't look like your stuff don't look like it should be worthy of being put on any public platform, and it takes away from the story. And it's unfortunate, it's a double standard, but I think we all know that if somebody sees a quote unquote black film, they're gonna judge it differently than they would a white film, right? Whether it's a rom-com, whether it's a thriller, whether it's a horror movie, whatever the case, even a documentary, you'd be like, that's a black documentary. I don't know, so-and-so did that. But let it be on some, I saw some Netflix documentary last night, American Nightmare or something, you know what I mean? And it becomes something else. So I think that is so important. But the other thing is like creating, going back to what you said, Brother Julian, creating opportunities, because when we're seeing a Taraji P. Henson talking about her pay discrepancy, when you see a Terrence Howard talking about his pay discrepancy, then that means to me, Brother Julian, black artists like yourself and others have to figure out new opportunities, new ways to not just generate an income, but to make an impact. And the direction you have taken as an entrepreneur, talking about your hotel ownership, we talked about this the last time you were on. Talk to us a little bit about this, because now you're not just talking about, hey, see me in another film. You're like, you know what? Let me get out of the way and let me start serving people. Let me do something to help people. Let me do something to make people's quality of life better. What was the big moment that you knew that you had to take that direction? And give us some details about the work that you're doing right now.
Sure, thank you. Truth be told is I've always had that mindset. Like I've always moved and maneuvered like that. So I've always been an entrepreneur all my life. I've always had the bootstrap, for all of my endeavors. So when I pivoted into acting and writing and getting into this space, what happened was I just constantly utilized each opportunity. So, like for instance, with the Farajii situation with Oprah, and a lot of people ask me all the time, how is Oprah really, and this and that. You work with her personally, and it's like, well, that wasn't my experience, and I can't sit here and speak on behalf of Farajii or Monique or anybody else, or Terrence Howard. I only can talk about my experience. My experience is no matter what you're given, you work with what you got, and that's just me, So I've utilized my platform and been leveraging it ever since. Yeah, I've worked on a bunch of other projects since Greenleaf, but that was a great introduction into the entertainment industry as a talent. So just understanding the dynamics of behind the scenes and all the moving pieces that you can't just want to be in front of the camera. You have to open your mindset up to all of the possibilities from an objective space, so that way you can best serve where you have other areas of talent and skill sets. And when you do that, then that's when, again, that's more conversations that you're allowing yourself open to, which gives you opportunity if you're listening for them. And so that's what happened with the hotel endeavor. We were speaking with some individuals. They knew we had a very strong interest in development and creating opportunities and wanting to get more into the real estate side. And that's kind of what opened up on the hotel side with the Rook Hotels, get our first hotel developed down in South Boston, Virginia. And even with that, people may look, oh, well, man, you must be killing it out there. I mean, here's the deal. We're all out here grinding and doing the best we can with no blueprint. Right? We don't have any formulas out here. There's certain elements, but everything is custom. Like everybody's situation is their situation. So you could try to follow someone else's footsteps. That doesn't mean you're going to get the same result, because there is no true blueprint of how to maneuver in this space. So we just have to stay flexible and get a good, strong team around you. And look out for one another. And that's what helps you with your entrepreneur endeavors while trying to pursue and do your creative side.
Absolutely. And brother Julian, because it's you and your wife, y'all working in this as a partnership, but more importantly, what do you make of people who say, oh man, anytime these celebrities, they do too much. They got their hands in too many pots, you know what I'm saying? And what do you make on that conversation? What's your response to that?
I call cap on it, and I say that it's BS, Farajii. We're people. We're people first. It's not, the celebrity part, that's a tool that we get to utilize if we use it right. But then we're people, man. We have all types of interests. You spoke of Terrence Howard. Terrence Howard is doing some cool things in the, I believe, the physics space and understanding how science and things play with sound and the body healing. He's doing some great work. I'm just started looking at some of his work, and that's something he's always wanted to do. He said that he was doing acting to pay bills, He just became very good at it, very skilled at it, but he has other endeavors. Other people have other talents and interests. So I say, don't put yourselves in a box. Allow yourself to breathe and give yourself room, because you never know. Again, this is television. This is media. This is all for communicating messages. And what do you communicate a message for but to get some actions and some results out of it? So what results and actions are you looking to get out of your viewers other than just seeing you up on the screen? No, have something for them to take away and that they can apply to their lives to hope amplify and be of value.
Hey, bro, you dropped the jewel right there. At the end of the day, y'all people, y'all have different interests, right? It's not shut up and act no more. I know back in the day that was a thing, right? Just shut up and act. Nah, not anymore.
No, I'm definitely not the guy. That conversation comes. You tell me what I can and cannot do. I'm respectful in all things that I do. So, I'm going to keep everybody in mind, but I'm definitely going to do what I'm doing.
There it is. Hey, look, brothers, I truly appreciate y'all both for joining me and having this discussion. Brother Anthony, talk to us about Mercy Road. What's the next step in the process?
The next step in the process is reaching out to some of these networks. Our legal counsel he has everything lined up. We have certain networks we're reaching out to, and our objective is to have it greenlit, picked up. We've created an entire series. We look forward to pushing it out to the masses, and I'm very happy about this project. And just like Julian said, one thing when you see shows like Mercy Road, regardless of any other shows that are alike, we have to do things different. We have to move different. We have to prepare different. We have to execute different. We have to make sure each and every person gives that 100%, because if they're able to do that, we put out this great quality work, doors open up, and we can just help out so many people in our own community, in our own businesses. So we just hope that once Mercy Road is picked up, we can bring those people right back together and say, all right, folks, let's get to work for the next 3, 4, 5, 6 months. And we take it that way.
There it is. There it is. Anthony Commodore, I truly appreciate you, brother. And I hope you give us an update on this process as you're pitching into networks.
Yes.
And we would love to be a part of that process to really celebrate you. But I thank you so much, brother Anthony, for the work that you're doing. Anthony,
yes.
You're welcome. You're welcome. My brother Julian Bertano, please give my best to you and to the family, brother. And of course, you're always welcome back onto the platform to talk about the next steps and the work that you're doing as a social impact specialist. You got the Block Builders Academy. We can bring you back to talk about that as well. But you're doing some fantastic work and just keep doing it, brothers, doing it big for the culture, man. Thank y'all so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Farajii. We greatly appreciate it. Thank you for having us. We appreciate it.
Absolutely. You're welcome. You're welcome. All right, folks, we got to take another quick pause. When we come back, let's hear from our medical expert, Dr. Bridget, for this week's Reclaim Your Wellness. Stay with us. That's up next here on The Culture on the Black Star Network.
Pull up a chair. Take your seat. The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
I'm Farajii Muhammad, live from LA. And this is The Culture. The Culture is a two-way conversation. You and me. We talk about the stories, politics, the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. So join our community every day at 3 p.m. Eastern and let your voice be heard. Hey, we're all in this together. So let's talk about it and see what kind of trouble we can get into. It's The Culture. Weekdays at 3, only on the Black Star Network.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Check some money orders. Go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com. Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punches! I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad. Thank you so much for tuning in as we're streaming live on our home network of blackstarnetwork.com. Make sure you do your due diligence, download the app for free, follow us on social media, and put something in the bucket for us as your sign of support and love for the work and the content that we're putting out there each and every day. If you go to our website at Black Star Network, you'll see that we are all over the place. Brother Roland's talking to a lot of different people. We're having a lot of different conversations here on the culture, the the Black Table, my sister with the frequency, and so many of the dynamic special programs that we have here on the network. So do your due diligence, support us today, and we thank you for your support. All right, folks, it is Monday. It is time for us to check in with our medical expert, Dr. Bridget, for this week's Reclaim Your Wellness. Dr. Bridget, good afternoon. How are you, ma'am?
Great, Farajii. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. All right, Doc, let's talk about wellness. And we're still in the beginning of the year. Are you still on your New Year's resolutions? Are you still?
I would never say the word resolution.
Okay.
I would say I practice mindfulness and try to do good work and activities that make myself better. I run a wellness group where we set goals every week, but I would never use the word resolution. It just has a bad connotation at this point, you know.
Damn.
I'm goal setting. I'm actively goal setting. Yes, that's my answer.
Some people call it they're what's the word they use, Doc? They're visioning. They do some type of vision work. Is that something?
Like vision boards and yeah. I mean, look, hey, whatever can get you there, do that. Right. But yeah, no, I'm actively goal setting. Actively goal setting. All right,
great. Well, here's why, because you actually said, I want to start off with this one piece that you said that you found some research on about parenting.
Yes.
And it's always interesting, you know, you and I are both parents, and I always wonder, like, yo, I'm coming to that age, Doc, when I'm realizing there is no manual for this thing.
No.
And because we are like kind of like walking in the dark, walking by faith type of situation, it really does take a toll on us. So what's this latest research that you saw?
Well, I think today's subjects are really going to be interesting because we're talking about what ages us and actually how can we gain some of that back. Right. So don't let this be a downer for you because we're going to end on a good note. We're going to end on a good note, I promise, with this one. But that basically at Northwestern University, they've actually proven what we've known for quite some time is that having children ages you. And so what they're looking at is women that have given birth, and what they've noticed is that the telomeres or the epigenetics of these women actually makes their life shorter. It actually ages them over time. And so basically when we say, you know, these kids are going to kill me, they kind of do. So it's some interesting information that we found here.
What? Wait a minute. Parenting actually ages you?
Yeah. So it was a new study that they found that with each pregnancy, that the mother's cells age anywhere between 6 months to about 2 years. So meaning if you only have one pregnancy, that ends up aging you, let's say 6 months or maybe more, depending on the pregnancy, 2 years. But if you have 5 babies, then it probably ages you 10 years. And there was another research from George Mason University that said that childbirth could age women up to 11 years. Come on. Come on. Don't leave me out here. You set me up and you're like,
no. Listen. I'm only listening to what you're saying to us based on the research.
Based on
11 years?
Yeah. These kids continue. No, well, let me add a little information here. So we're not talking about just of the stress and what children put you through, or even just the stress that that pregnancy itself. But basically, we have these telomeres, which are like the plastic end of a shoestring, the aglet. I don't,
Yeah.
right? And they protect your DNA. And with every pregnancy where you are increasing cell production fast, where cells are growing and increasing in size quickly, it frays on that aglet. It frays on that plastic end of the shoestring. And that protective end is what actually keeps our cells healthy and keeps them young, basically. Okay. And so with every pregnancy of this increased cell growth, and in enlarging of all these cells continuously, it ends up aging your DNA, which ages your cells, which is, this is who we are. This is what we're made of. And so even the epigenetic age, which is a combination, our genes are not one and done, meaning that we have the ability to influence our genes based on our activity, our diet, our lifestyle, our experiences. And so pregnancy also alters the epigenetics of our body that actually adds into the aging process.
Damn. Now, Doc, I'm not trying to leave you out there by yourself, but I'm just like, what is going on? What? All right, so we got to take a quick pause, but I'm wondering. I think one of the big questions that we have to ask is it beneficial?
What, having children? I don't know which way are we going with this one?
I mean, I know it's beneficial. Trust me. I'm not saying that it's not beneficial, but I'm just saying at the same time, is this something, these physiological changes that you're talking about and this toll that is being placed on the woman's body in particular, how does a woman prepare herself for that? You know what I'm saying? Because there's a heavy burden that's placed on a woman's body. And as men, how do we accommodate for that? How do we make sure that the process of a woman being pregnant, having a child, that whole process, how do we prepare for that as men and women, as father and mothers? How do we prepare for that? Because that's a lot.
It is a lot. And I think, for some people, this might be that ringing of the bell where you were looking for that information that actually makes you want to change your lifestyle. I'm hoping for some of you, this is it, because it's the epigenetic aspect of it, where you do control your diet, where you control the energy that you allow into, because there's some negative energy out there, right? The energy that you allow into your life, the amount of activity that you involve yourself in, including yoga, which we will get a little bit more into that, and how this actually ties in, right? And so when I think more than ever, you'll see information about preparing yourself for pregnancy, which I think 20 plus more years ago, that wasn't really a conversation. I think that's a real thing, that if you want to be more on your body aging 6 months versus 2 years, and particularly if you're doing multiple pregnancies, do the preparation and continue it after that pregnancy. Because the fact of the matter is, we actually come, who has the longest telomeres, right? So these are those protective ends of our DNA that keeps us young. Blacks have longer telomeres more than any other race. But what we experience after we get here will cause a lot of the shortening and the less protection, and changes, honestly, our DNA. So we can protect ourselves and put ourselves in a better place, even through pregnancy, by living ignore the culture around us that tells us to eat fast food, quick food, high fat, high carbs, and focus in on a healthy lifestyle that is actually still more gratifying and enjoyable, and you can live your youthful life for a long time.
Look, we got to take a quick pause. The crew is talking about this as you breaking out all of this new research to show that there is a physical and emotional toll of having children. We'll continue the conversation on the other side. Folks, I want to hear your take on this as Dr. Bridget breaks it down for us, that parenting, having children and being a parent can age you based on some new research. And what do you make of that? Join us in the conversation. Post your comments in the chat as we're streaming live on Roland Martin's YouTube channel and Facebook page, and stay with us. The conversation continues on the other side here on The Culture on the Black Star Network.
Pull up a chair, take your seat. The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
I'm Farajii Muhammad, live from LA. And this is The Culture. The Culture is a two-way conversation. You and me. We talk about the stories, politics, the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. So join our community every day at 3 p.m. Eastern and let your voice be heard. Hey, we're all in this together. So let's talk about it and see what kind of trouble we can get into. It's The Culture, weekdays at 3, only on the Black Star Network.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com. Folks, Black Star Network is here.
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad. I'm joined by our medical expert here on The Culture, Dr. Bridget Cole-Williams, for this week's Reclaim Your Wellness segment. And Dr. Bridget has just dropped some jewels about a new piece of research that shows that parenting can actually take a toll on you, that there is a physical and emotional toll that's placed on the body when you're talking about even having children or raising children. And I'm still trying to recover from this latest announcement because it brings up a lot of questions, Doc. A lot of questions, and the crew is listening, and everybody's in a state of shock. You know, I see people putting Stephanie Humphrey channel check this. She said, "Whoa, Doc, whoa!" Like this is.
What did we say right at the start? This is something that we always expected. It's just the research. You know, those kids were aging you right from the beginning. But now the research supports that. So, but there's a way around this, and there's a way to protect your body that is meaningful.
But see, I think the conflict comes in when you're talking about the cultural messages, the religious messages, the family messages that we are conditioned by, that we are accustomed to hearing, and then you have the scientific research. And now you have to, if you're a woman, you have to figure out, especially if you're a woman that don't have children already, like, is this really something that I want to put myself through? If you're a woman that do have children, you're probably sitting in the back like, please, you ain't gotta, I don't need research for that. I know that. And it's trying to figure out how to be in a better space with with all of this new information. So I think it creates a little bit of a disturbance.
Yes, but I think that's what I'm saying. I hope this is the bell ringing for some people you really have to take care of yourself.
Right.
And a lot of the messages that we get in our culture do not support taking care of ourselves, right? A lot of our culture supports indulgence and, you know, particularly in America, to continue to work harder, stay up later, you know, get more done, things that add more stress to our lives. And we have to have a protective place. We have to have a place where we balance our lives, balance our diets, and don't let the intensity of our culture to have a great effect on us.
Balance our lives, balance our diets, and don't let the intensity of the culture have a great effect on us. All right. I like it. Brian Christian, my guy Brian, said, I wonder if this also explains postpartum depression. What's your response to that, Doc?
I don't think it's the cause of it, meaning that if you could have a difficult pregnancy, you could have a very straightforward pregnancy and still end up with postpartum depression, right? But do I think people that have the stress of postpartum depression probably have more of the cellular aging? Potentially, because stress is an aspect in these telomeres shortening more and more and more. People that have more trauma will have more, their telomeres will be shorter. People that have more intense negative aspects of their life will also have, it changes our genetics a little bit. And so it changes who we are. So I think there's an aspect of it that's true.
Okay. The ABX girl pointed this out. She said, I am with a group of women and very few have had children, but I've had several friends in my past who had children and had stress and sadly shortened lives. I feel like with the ABX girl, and I've heard some women kind of express that sentiment, not her particularly, but just in saying that they have friends that are in that space. But one of the things is that my concern also around this is it creates a sentiment of bitterness, a resentment. And, you know, if you know, we're in a space, we're in a culture right now, Doc, where women are fighting for agency of their bodies, fighting for agency over their rights, fighting for agency over their health. And children may become the targets of that resentment, that bitterness. That's what I'm concerned. Now, am I looking at this the wrong way? Tell me. You can just say, that's crazy.
So that is not what this research is about. That's not what the story is about. The fact of the matter is, from the moment you are born, you are aging.
Gotcha.
Okay? That you are growing, you are your cells may be, initially multiplying as you grow and develop, but then you start the aging process soon after that, right? And so to say, oh, we should do nothing that ages us, then we would never have wisdom, right? And there's no better gift. So let's not look at aging as the big negative, okay?
Okay.
Because death is a part of life. So I don't want anyone saying, oh, them damn kids. No, that's not what this is about, because it was also what gave, the ability to have children and give them a new life is an incredible gift. So this isn't about, no one wants to be 20 forever. It wasn't.
Come on. I don't.
Right? Like most of the people I talk to, every decade, they feel that they are better than they were the last. But you do have to do the work, and you have to be incredibly protective of your boundaries to be able to have that growth and be able to appreciate your 40s and 50s and 60s and 70s. Because I want to be 70 and be like, this is the best decade, right? But I don't get that unless I do the work. So
that's true.
I think the trick here is that, in whatever your religious affiliation or what have you, but God has given you this gift. Then he's like, but now you must take care of it. Okay. So aging isn't the negative part, but allowing aspects to come into our lives that age us faster, that's on our responsibility. So don't hate the kids. No.
And I'm glad that you mentioned that. But I think that this also speaks to, like, if you're choosing to start a family, to have children, to be very sensible and intelligent about it, do some family planning, which I think, Doc, is kind of a lost science in our community, right? Because we're so used to kind of moving based on the feelings and the emotions between the connections and stuff, but not really looking at what it takes to build a family unit, if that's what you want to do. If you want to bring children into this world, you want to bring them into the best circumstances. I don't mean you got to be multimillionaires and all of those things. I'm talking about into the best realistic, sustainable circumstances that you can provide for the growth and cultivation of little human beings. You know what I'm saying? Now that doesn't always work out that way,
right?
But we do should at least strive for something like okay, let me bring these children into, or this child into a stable relationship, stable home, something. There has to be some family planning.
I agree. I'm so exhausted with hearing people act, when they act like pregnancy is something that happened to them.
Oh my Lord, Doc.
That's not, I mean.
I gotta ask you, how many times do you hear when somebody say, I didn't know it was going to happen?
And with grown, the teenagers, grown adults. And
say it, Doc. Grown ass men and women.
Yes, and act like, oh, it just happened to you. It just happened to you. Like, we do need to be mindful, and I totally agree with you, Farajii, that we need to be mindful that if we're talking in the sense of being in stressful, negative situations that will age you mentally, physically, take years off of your life, change your DNA. So pick your partner wisely. If they're stressing you out now, honey, they will mess you up in 10, 20 years from now. Okay. If you have not, looking at bringing a child into a space where they have the best opportunity that you can provide, instead of bringing them into a situation that you are not even trying to give them a good opportunity.
Lord.
And guess what? Yes. And all of that will age you. That will age you. And so if that's important to you, make better. I mean, we've had this conversation before. Make better choices. Make better choices.
But I love him. I'm sorry.
You know,
This is
I
why I
laugh
enjoy Doc,
because
man. This is why I enjoy Dr. Bridget, y'all. Y'all don't understand. Like, she's so cute. Keep it real, man.
listen,
Keep it real.
I have a dear friend of mine, and I really think she is the last of the hopeless romantics. And it's kind of fun and interesting to hear about, oh, you know, being so in love, and everybody wants that level of intimacy and connection, but you've got to make it with given the opportunity. You can fall in love with a frog, you can fall in love with a rock, but it won't take you nowhere, right? So you cannot let your loins or your love make you make decisions that will lessen your life or your children or whatever you were meant to do, whatever God had set you out to do. Make sure that you don't let those interfere with it that aren't good for you, because the plan is something that is much better for you. So just be protective of your space, of your heart, of your boundaries, your balance, because you know, a lot of people say the devil's around every corner.
That's real.
And the devil is charming. So
you
have to be careful.
Hey, look, we got to take another quick pause. When we come back, that's more conversation with Doc. I want to share more of your comments as well, so continue to post your comments as we're streaming on Roland Martin's YouTube channel, Roland Martin's Facebook page. Stay with us, folks. It's The Culture here on the Black Star Network.
Pull up a chair, take your seat. The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
I'm Farajii Muhammad, live from LA. And this is The Culture. The Culture is a two-way conversation. You and me. We talk about the stories, politics, the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. So join our community every day at 3 p.m. Eastern and let your voice be heard. Hey, we're all in this together. So let's talk about it and see what kind of trouble we can get into. It's The Culture, weekdays at 3, only on the Black Star Network.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Check some money orders. Go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com. Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punching! I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland. Hey, Black, I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. We are in the midst of our segment, Reclaim Your Wellness, with our medical expert, Dr. Bridget Cole-Williams, MD. She's talking to us about parenting and so much more. And the chat is just going off right now, Doc, because people are like saying, you know what, we got to have some different conversations about the idea of bringing children into this world. And, you know, a couple of folks from the tech, a couple of crew members said that they have decided that they weren't going, you know, even in their current relationships, that they're not looking to bring children into the world. And one, I don't think you should shame anybody for their decisions, because I can totally understand. Like, if that's not your thing, then don't try to make it your thing unless it's really in your heart to do. Like, because some people, I question, why did you have children if you wanted to live a certain way, or because this is a serious task. Having children is not a small time thing. And I think that's the other part of this conversation, Doc, is that we have minimized it as if having children is easy. You know what I'm saying? Like, we know that now that we know that there is a physical and emotional toll, we already know that there's an economic toll, because when you have little human beings running around the house, you got to feed them bad boys. You got to feed them. You got to clothe them. You got to get them. I mean, they are constantly in need. And if you don't have the heart capacity, you don't have the mind capacity to think about them every single day, you don't have the heart capacity to love them regardless of all that they do, and you don't have the capacity to really wanting to build a world that will sustain them, that will empower them, then
I mean, I hear what you're saying. I definitely, we're in a new space where parenting is an option. It's not a guarantee or a necessity the way previous generations have been. Like, women got married, they had kids. That was kind of how they sustained themselves, right? Children don't raise themselves. And I think we've gotten into a culture where between the television and the tablet and, you know, I'm going to send them to school, that somehow they think that's what raises your kids. Okay. There is what it takes to put into a small being so that they grow up to be a better person than you is incredible amount of work, emotional investment, and also to make sure that you don't pass on your trauma to them, you have to do some personal work. I don't want people to look at this study and say, oh, well, I don't want to age my mind, body, or change my DNA based on the fact of having kids. This is not a vanity conversation. Okay.
Right.
This is a how to protect the body that you've been given. Okay. And just as having children might shorten those telomeres, and not having a great diet and extreme stress can change your genetics in some way, right? The other aspect of this is that they found that in a different study, clearly, that doing yoga as well as a clean diet and lifestyle actually reduces the fraying of those same telomeres. So it starts to put the aglet back on the shoelace, as I was saying before, the little plastic end that protects the DNA. It actually starts to pull that back together. And so I said I was going to end on a good note, right? That if life stressors and this incredible biological process that you go through in having children starts to age your cells in many ways, you have the ability to add life back into those cells by living a clean diet and yoga and meditation in particular.
And Doc, how would you recommend that mothers and fathers? I mean, we're also living in an age where single parent households, unfortunately, is the norm, especially within Black America, right? So for a mom that might have 2, 3, I mean, one child is one thing. But if you're a mom that has 2 or 3 or even 4 children in the home that you have to care for, finding that time for self-care, finding that time to rejuvenate your spirit, finding that time to bring some quietness to your mind can be a Herculean task. So what do you recommend that women do in particular? What do our sisters do to get to that mental space through yoga and other, wellness practices?
Absolutely. So even if waking up in the morning, don't make this bigger than what it is. Start with small tasks. If you wake up in the morning, before you grab that phone and see what Instagram told you, okay, do a 3-minute, 5-minute, 10-minute meditation before you go to bed, before you are again checking that phone to see what foolishness is going on. Do end on a good note and do either that 3 or 5 or 10-minute meditation just to kind of collect, and your body and your mind deserve that. Okay. When we're talking about doing the yoga, it can be as simple. You don't have to do some huge process. And they found that even with Black people doing yoga, there's many times a stress of going into a class where it is all, white individuals. That in itself has a stressor to it. And so starting even at home, and there's plenty of Black yoga institutes and classes all across the US, but you start with some intentional stretching. Okay. Start with some intentional stretching to get yourself back into your body and to be able to use and feel more comfortable in it. And that in itself has a certain amount of meditation to it. The other part of this is, what are we eating? There's a methylation process that happens with our DNA, and this means that it actually is a transmission of life. If we have methylation, we actually improve the quality of our cells. And rich foods that are rich in providing that methylation process are beets, onions, garlic, dark leafy greens, such as kale, collard greens, but I didn't say kale chips. No, I didn't say it. Get the real vegetables in there, and that can have a great benefit on how your genes are expressed, along with avocados, broccoli, even cabbage, fish, seafood. So the whole pescatarian approach to this of life, or beans and legumes, eggs, vegetarian approach to this can be helpful. What should you avoid may be more important. Charred food. We know we love some burnt up stuff, right?
We don't call it burnt up. We call it grilled.
Is that what that, like when you want the
mesquite barbecue?
Some burnt up. I said what I said. Burnt up. Okay. Charred food releases carcinogens, and so charred food will have some issues there. Added sugars. There's a Netflix special about sugar and what we have created in this world with all this added sugar, fake sugar, artificial sweeteners. There should be laws against this. Obviously, alcohol is literally a poison that we consume. Folic acid rich fortified foods, like these are things that we need to make sure that we're careful with. But I would say the easiest, everything doesn't need to be burnt up, number one, and watch the sugars, the artificial sweeteners in particular. That is a great place to start.
That sounds like a fantastic place to start. Stephanie Humphrey channel, you said yoga and mindfulness are definitely good practices. Absolutely. Yoga. I've gone to a few yoga classes, enjoyed myself, came out body hurting, but at the same time, I knew it was important. Mindfulness is something I highly advocate. Taking time to meditate. Like every time I talk to a wellness practitioner, doc, they say, look, it doesn't take much for you to sit down, calm your mind, and calm your body down for 5 to 10 minutes a day. It makes a world of difference. And I would have to agree, it makes a world of difference when you can just calm your mind down and just breathe in and breathe out. And please, and I want to, Doc, let me do this. Let me take one more quick pause, but I want you to talk to us about, as you're talking about taking time out yourself, to speak to this time deficit mentality that a lot of parents kind of suffer from. You know, I don't have time, when in fact, we do. We do actually have time. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to take our final pause right here on The Culture. Stay with us. It's The Culture here on the Black Star Network.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. This is an opportunity for us to be able to speak to our issues. Y'all better understand something real quick. We ain't going nowhere. It is a continual battle that we see all across this country. Revolution will not be televised. The revolution will be streamed.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
He makes sure that our stories are told.
Roland Martin's doing this every day.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture as we are in our segment, Reclaim Your Wellness with Dr. Bridget. And Doc has been giving us some very vital information about everything from relating to parenting and wellness practices like yoga, mindfulness, making sure you take time out for yourself. But Doc, in the final few moments, I wanted to kind of get your take on this time deficit mentality that I think a lot of us as parents, we struggle with, right? Thinking that we don't have enough time to do those things that will keep our minds, our bodies, our spirits in a good place. Can you speak to that? Can you help us to understand that we just have to make time for what's really important?
Absolutely. So, like I said, we're in a culture that that forces us to keep going. There's more. We have to go. We have to move. There's another way of approaching life, right? And it is going to be countercultural. But I would say if you're in a space where you're being countercultural, you're probably doing something a little bit better for yourself. I mean, there's other countries that literally have siestas. Everything shuts down for a couple of hours so that people can regroup. We never stop. And so, but we'll find time sometimes for the things that are important to us. What we need to make sure that we understand, particularly as parents, is that those children are important to us. We know that, but they need to see that in action. And so with small children, taking the time to literally get on the floor and play with them, so that you are right into their space. That if we're talking about older children, taking the time to have a conversation, watch a movie with them sitting on the couch, playing a game with them if that's what they're, into, showing up. The fact of the matter is you can never get everything done. So get your top priorities, done. You should be on that list. Obviously, your family should be on that list, and you will get the job done. People respect people that make efforts to be more balanced. They see the difference. And so it is making sure that you get the sleep in. It's using your time wiser when you are at work. Because that one person in the office always want to come by and gossip. You don't have time for them.
Right.
Just being in the moment and staying focused so that you can leave, so that you can get to your child's game, so that you do have that quiet time in the car. So instead of taking every phone call and trying to read your phone while you're driving, allow that be your time to collect yourself. Even though you're driving, it can still be a quiet time to allow yourself to collect your thoughts.
And I think that's the problem. And this is a whole different subject, so I don't want to even open up Pandora's box. But I think a lot of us are afraid to hear ourselves and afraid to hear our own thoughts, right? So everywhere we go, something has to be on to distract us from how we're thinking and what we're thinking, right? some of us really are challenged by sitting in a space quiet, nothing on, phones off. Some of us are really troubled by that. Like the idea of not focused on something throws people off. I can't do that. It's like when people say, I gotta sleep with the TV on. And it's fine. I mean, that's your personal choice. But at the end of the day, messages are still being conveyed. There's still a level of communication that's happening between your brain and what's coming across the screen. So I think that, just helping us to be like comfortable in our own skin, comfortable with your own thoughts, like that driving time you speak about. I took a walk this morning, that time, not listening to anything, just walking and taking it. And I think that makes a world of difference when you actually can be present in the moment, to hear yourself, to be present in the moment, to take in your environment.
Present in the moment. Most of us are literally jumping ahead to the next moment every single second of the day, right? And when you start to appreciate and be present, everybody feels the difference. You will physically feel the difference. Your children will feel the difference. Your work, your significant, they will, if you can focus and truly listen. Most of the time you're listening to somebody, you're still looking at your phone or watching TV and saying, yeah, I'm listening.
Right.
We have to take, the culture is not built for your success and your happiness.
Damn.
It's not. I think we had this conversation before. Why don't we have universal health care? Because during the time of Truman and Roosevelt, they said, if we have, you and I had this conversation, I think. The reason we don't have universal health care is because during Truman and Roosevelt, the plan was that if we had universal health care, Black people will live longer. We can eliminate Black Americans by not allowing them to have appropriate health care. They will die. They will become ill. The culture is not built for you to do well. So you have to take it upon yourself. We have to build community so that we can do better and survive. Part of the study here, even with the yoga and it helping, and just how the stressors that we experience in the society, they showed that Mexican Americans that were affluent, that went to college, that moved out of the neighborhood and moved into majority white neighborhoods were actually, their telomeres were actually shorter than the ones in poverty because they lost community. We have to do the work to protect ourselves. This is not a story about don't have kids. That's not the point of the story. And to also end on a note, the study that showed that the telomeres were shortening, they're going back to those same women 13 years after their pregnancies to see if their telomeres are different. So this may alter, there'll be a part 2 to this as well. But we have to do the work to protect our own DNA.
Yeah, it is.
And our own. So, yeah.
That is the absolute. Janelle, you said, I wish I knew this information as a young mom. I was all about the grind and could have spent more time on the floor playing with my children. How do we encourage this info today? Doc, what would your response be to Janelle's point? How do we encourage this info today?
The diet, sleep, start doing some yoga, some stretching, and some deep breathing. The fact that I had a woman that's in her 70s say, well, what do I do now? Because I talked about what are your future plans? What do you want to do? She's like, I'm 70. And I was like, the story ain't over until it's over. We can always start. We can always start and make and change our path. And so, yes, your children might be older and you have now an opportunity to bond with them and connect with them in a different way. So the story isn't over.
Absolutely.
There's always more room for growth.
There is always more room for growth. Doc, I cannot thank you enough for bringing this to our attention today for this week's segment. Is there going to be an after chat tonight?
Yes. So we are doing Healthy Relationships Only. We're doing it at 7 p.m. tonight because I'm partnering with a nurse friend of mine, a wellness educator, Tony out of San Francisco, and we're talking about mindful boundaries. So a nice tie into our conversation today. And so we'll continue this and get into mindful boundaries on Healthy Relationships Only, 7 p.m. on Instagram, Dr. Bridget MD.
There it is. And Doc, I want to throw it out there. I know we got to close out, but are you familiar with relational intelligence?
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah.
We should have a conversation about it.
We can have a conversation about it. Because we all don't got it. So yeah, we should have a conversation.
And see, this is the stuff. Hey, Doc, I'm gonna be honest with you. Like, I wish we're missing out on so much like good information in terms of how we grew up versus where we are now. Mm-hmm. And I think it would have, as I'm looking at this piece around relational intelligence and this whole idea of being able to discern, as you talk about relationships, discern which relationships you need to keep or where to categorize people in your life based upon what they bring to your life and what you get from these relationships. And it's like, damn, man, you learn about this stuff when you're in your 40s, in your 50s,
If you were in your 20s, you would not have listened to one word of this. I mean, let's be honest. You can only begin what you're ready for. And at 20, you would have been relational what? But she's fine. What do I got to do with it? You wouldn't have cared. Am I wrong? You would have been like, what?
Right. But you know what? At least if you were to drop the seed, you know what I'm saying? Because, after all this other stuff comes down, after failed relationships and ups and downs and all this stuff and all the trauma and all of this stuff, you finally get to that point. And I understand why the Bible says it takes 75 years to learn how to live. That's what the scriptures say. 75 years. That means that a lot of us, we're still babies in this process.
Yeah.
We're still babies in this process. All right, a lot to digest, great to process. Dr. Bridget, y'all make sure y'all follow her on all social media platforms. She's absolutely dope, y'all. She is our chief medical expert here on The Culture, always giving us some great things to check out and for us to think about. She's here on Mondays with her segment, Reclaim Your Wellness, and I'm always happy to have her on to talk about all this stuff. So thank you, Dr. Bridget, for being so good for the culture.
Absolutely.
All right, folks. That's going to do it for us. Thank you all for tuning in. Stay tuned. Up next is Roland Martin Unfiltered. As always, make sure y'all check us out on Black Star Network. Download the app for free. Follow us on social media. And more importantly, drop something in the bucket. Continue to support us as we do our work of providing you quality Black content and information that you can certainly learn from and gain something from. So again, go to our website today at blackstarnetwork.com. All right, that's going to do it for me. 6 p.m. Eastern time. Check out my big brother, Roland Martin Unfiltered. As always, never be afraid to challenge what's wrong. Stand for what's right while being yourself in the process. God willing, we'll be back tomorrow for another exciting edition of The Culture right here, only here, exclusively here on the Black Star Network. Thank you for checking in. Talk to you soon. Peace.